Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Just Economy podcast, sponsored by the Community Reinvestment Alliance of Florida. We are a nonprofit membership organization providing, making sure that the financial institutions reinvest in our community, and through the Reinvestment Act of 1977. And we are looking forward to continuing our podcast. Today, we have someone very, 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 very special to me, and I've known Stephanie for quite a long time. Her name is Stephanie van Vark. You have to make sure you pronounce it correctly. But she's decided to join us today as we continue our podcast, and I want to welcome you, Stephanie.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited about this conversation.
Yeah, we've worked together several times, and we've had some serious conversations around the community and around small businesses in the community. Stephanie van Vark is one of our leading small businesses in our community, and she fights and advocates for small businesses. So, Stephanie, welcome to the Just Economy podcast again. Building a just economy and building Florida's just economy, $1, one vote at a time. We're glad to have you here. Make sure that you get a chance to look at our website. That's www.craf.org. And again, my name is Cornell Cruz Jr. I am the executive director. So we're going to jump right into some things with Stephanie. So first, Stephanie, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get here? I'm always interested in people's history.
Okay. My name is Stephanie van Vark, and I don't know if you can tell from my southern accent, I am originally from Georgia. But after going to college, I landed here in Miami many, many moons ago. Worked at a Fortune 500 retail establishment for many moons, and then ultimately ended up in a historic Black neighborhood known as Overtown, both living there and working there for the city of Miami, and learned a lot about community. I came from a small town where community was core, and this was a place where I could land and sort of really learn about how things were a little bit different, how they operated a little bit differently, and decided at that time it might be a good idea to use my skill set, which was production, which was marketing. I have a background in both, to start a company that would hopefully support small business, not just small business, community. Really put a spotlight on communities, especially those communities that aren't celebrated in the proper way. To give a different lens, not just a historical lens, but a current lens of good folks, good people, good eats. Just some challenges that may not be in other places and spaces. So.
Oh. Well, great. I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of the small businesses in our city and in our area here in South Florida do not get the support that they need. So, and that's a lot we're going to talk about today. So, tell us a little bit about the company.
StephanieCreates. We are a media production and marketing or communications company. Our focus is really about culture and community. We are a community outreach organization that really supports getting information to and about and for communities primarily of color, but not only of color, but definitely communities that need that support. And some media production. We have launched a podcast called Just Talking Business that is to support and provide education around pivoting during challenging times to small businesses by talking to small business owners who've had to do that either through a pandemic or a hurricane, or many of them through the 2008 housing bust, how they were able to not just survive but thrive. And so we use and do what we do to try to support and provide information that's going to help and support.
So has it been a challenge in getting businesses to buy into small businesses to buy into that they do need your service?
I don't think it's a challenge. The challenge becomes money. Let's be real candid. When you are a small business and you do need to keep your doors open and keep your employees paid, and if you're a restaurant, all the inventory that's required, or retail, all the inventory that's required. Unfortunately, the marketing, production, media services are it's on the list. I will also say that in this market, there is definitely a challenge when it comes to pricing. When you're looking at doing things in the creative space. So
So expound on that a little bit.
Well, this is a market, I feel, others may feel differently, where creative industries, a lot of folks think they can do what we do. So because a lot of folks think they can do what we do, there's not the same kind of value as having a widget. When I got to buy a thing, I am going to buy a thing at that price. But what we do is sort of, it's a post. So how much do I value a post or production or whatever that looks like? I just don't know, because folks just don't know what the value of that is.
Understand. So, you and I talk a lot about small business needs and what the small business community deserves and needs from entities that can help them. For instance, let me say this. Last night I was on a round table, and one of the gentlemen said that he doesn't believe that government should help small businesses. And I decided not to engage. You know me, usually.
That was really good.
Yeah, usually I'm deep, but I'm ready to jump in with both boots. But I decided not to. So, but I look at it in another way as well. Is that government helps big business. Big business has the opportunity to engage our political system, engage our commissioners and mayors to get what they want, right, and need.
Right.
So why not small businesses? So, and when you look at our area and small business needs, what do you give me a few of those needs that you think that are needed for the small business to thrive and survive here?
Well, first of all, let me say the person you were talking to, I couldn't possibly be a small business owner because that just doesn't even make sense. Especially since small businesses generally are the anchor of most communities. Small business, and especially if you're talking about communities of color, small businesses and churches. Those are the anchors.
And especially in Florida and South Florida in particular.
Correct, exactly. Even if, some of the resources don't necessarily only have to be dollars. If you're looking at zoning, if you're looking at building requirements, if you're looking at safety measures, all those things are going to be very important. And as you grow those businesses can now pour back into their community, and in some cases pour back into government. So it's just a cycle. But, it's a challenge here. We are a community, I think we talked about this, that is about 85% small business. And, we were just talking about it. I have a friend that says it very eloquently, and I think it's the best thing she's ever said, I've ever heard, is, Miami itself is like a teenager with a mustache. It looks much more mature than it is. So it is a very young ecosystem. So I think there's a lot that is needed. We've been focused many years on supporting startup, bringing more and more small businesses without the infrastructure and the support to ensure that those businesses are going to continue to be able to do business. I think we're now at a place where we are talking scale, so that's good. At least the conversations are happening. I think we're still trying to figure out the strategy to make it work. But we really have got to. We're not going to be able to keep these businesses alive if they aren't able to make business. So as a small business, if I'm relying on 85% of the population that's quite frankly hustling like I am, I don't know how we survive, how either one of us survives, because we both need each other in that way.
So among resources, you and I, Stephanie and I have had many discussions about resources in our area and how we can help provide small business resources. So when we talk about resources, one of Stephanie's biggest pet peeves as a small business owner was the continuous classes and trainings that would always be had, but would not amount to any substantial trainings that they can use afterwards. So I'd like for you to expound on that a little bit about your ideas about the training and technical assistance that's been provided in the past.
Well, I mean, my challenge with training has been like in high school. You go to the first grade, you learn some stuff. You go to the second grade, you learn more stuff, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The training got stagnant, really. It was all focused on startup. So I was taking a million programs or workshops on, you should be marketing. Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. You should be doing this or you should be doing that. That's stuff that we've sort of already heard. You need to make your corporation legal or trademark. All that's done. So at some point, you get to a point where you have received this information. Mm-hmm. Now what? How do I put that into effect so that I'm generating consistent revenue all the time? And I think that's where we have been missing the boat. And when you are, a lot of businesses are less than 10 people, less than 4, most of the businesses that I know, that means all hands on deck. Mm-hmm. I don't know about anybody else, but do I have the time to really focus on my marketing plan when I'm trying to keep my doors open and payroll happening? Those are, challenges for folks that are just trying to be successful in this world. So how do we look at not just training, but active, actionable programs and projects that support the needs of small businesses with limited income, but can help them scale because they can focus on growth. They can focus on creating opportunities for themselves and executing those strategies.
Okay. Well, that's something that I think that the small businesses, I used to work in an organization, a nonprofit organization, providing training, yes, technical assistance, and loans, and I could, you can see it in their eyes. Okay, I get it. I understand. I get the QuickBooks. I get the marketing. I get the social media. I get it. But where am I going to have to find the time to execute it?
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't have the money to pay anybody for
exactly, it. Exactly. So all of that to lead up to Ms. Van Vark has come up with an idea to try to help solve this problem. So I would love for you to expound on your project that we're looking to help get funded.
Sure. We've had this conversation before. One of the challenges I think a lot of small businesses have is, I'm an owner, I'm the accountant, I'm the lawyer, I'm the everything. And part of that is because I just don't have all the resources all the time and I don't have the money all the time. So we want to create a program where businesses can enter sort of, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, sort of a co-op type support mechanism, wherein you pay a monthly fee, a monthly subscription, and you get those services up to a certain amount of hours per month. That accountant who can help you with your taxes, that accountant who can advise you when you're having challenges with looking at your financial numbers, that lawyer who may be able to, advise you on whether this is a good contract or a bad contract. And at a nominal fee, it's something that you can afford. Most businesses can afford, about $80 a month maybe, to be able to get such things that are so invaluable that could help either keep them out of trouble or help relieve some of the things that they need to do on a day-to-day basis, social media, marketing, those types of things. So now they can focus on the growth of their business. How do we come up with ways? And let me say, I'm going to throw this out actually as how this is very necessary, is I've just now hired someone from the Philippines to do my social media for me, primarily because it's inexpensive, but it now takes that off my plate that I can now focus on some other things. And so this program will be similar to that. How do we get you all the resources you need at a nominal fee.
And you're looking at helping the small business accountant.
Correct.
You're looking at helping the accountant who has a small business. He's a small business. The lawyer who's a small business. The social media person.
Correct, because they're in the program.
They're in the program.
We're basically promoting that you use one another. So not only am I paying into the program,
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting money from the program.
Mm-hmm.
I get an automatic clientele and target market.
Mm-hmm.
So it's twofold, an excellent opportunity to serve businesses both ways.
So, this is something that Stephanie has been kicking around for quite a while, and brought it to me, and we're trying to look at some ways to get it funded, because it's going to, it's not something that can just be, picked up, tomorrow. It has to be funded, correctly. Someone has to run it, and provide the other things that are necessary as well. So we want to partner with another organization that's a community development financial institution that can actually help provide loans as well to that governing body.
And training. Training is not bad,
mm-hmm.
but it needs to be tiered toward
exactly.
the client.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So as we and you'll be and for the audience, we'll be putting out more about that particular project as we move along, because we're pretty confident we're going to get it done sooner or later, preferably sooner than later, with a lot of, and we're going to need some help. But I think it's a project that's worthwhile and can help the small businesses attain what they need to do, and be able to scale, as we just talked about. And then it's not just for tech companies, as you well know, as the audience well knows, here in South Florida, or in Florida in particular, we don't manufacture anything, we don't build anything.
Right, absolutely.
Most of our businesses, our biggest industry is tourism. But what about the peripherals of the tourism?
Correct.
What about that small business printer? What about the person who owns a car wash, the person who owns a dry cleaner? Those people, the beauty salon, the nail salon.
Absolutely.
Those folks need social media. Those folks need an accountant. Those folks need a lawyer. For instance, during the pandemic, two of the organizations, Neighbors and Neighbors and Partners for Self-Employment Inc., ran a program for the county, and they put close to $5 million on the street during the pandemic. A lot of folks they had to turn away because the folks didn't have the proper documents, right? They hadn't been keeping a running record of their business. They didn't have any QuickBooks. They couldn't pull down their sales and their profit and loss. They couldn't pull down those items. And I talked to both of those directors, and that was the big issue. They wanted to help everyone, but think about how many people they had to turn away from a program that was basically a grant that they had to turn away because they didn't have the proper documents. It didn't have the needs. So this project that you're working on, Stephanie, I think would be ideal. If you're listening and you want to contribute, by all means, reach out and contact Stephanie or I, because we honestly believe this is something that can help the small businesses.
And that's, in a community that's 85% small business and most of the mom and pop, there's a lot of that occurring.
Sure.
So what a missed opportunity for people to keep their doors open during a pandemic, because they just didn't have the ability to be able to keep.
Close to 70% of the businesses in Miami-Dade County alone, approximately 68% are businesses that with 5 employees or less.
Right. And I know another story. So I have the good benefit of, from my show, I actually learn a lot myself, so that's why I kind of love it. And one of the young ladies on the show talked about how they had to close during the pandemic, but not because of the pandemic. They'd rented a facility and did not get a lawyer to review the contract prior to. Reason being cost. It cost a lot of money. There was a lot of things in the rental agreement that ultimately ended up shooting them in the foot. So things like that, this could have been a great opportunity, even maybe after the pandemic. But it just, because they did not have the resources to really vet the contract or have someone vet the contract on their behalf,
Yeah, you get a lot of companies that are just so glad to get a space,
Right.
and
Just
don't read the fine print.
Right.
I'm just so happy to get a space to open up my own spot and be able to do business for myself. So, there's an organization, Catalyst Miami, a plug, Catalyst Miami, who's also a nonprofit organization, is working on a project where small business owners can actually purchase the building
Oh,
that they're
wow.
in and make it sort of like a condo situation.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Where
Okay.
they make up the rules for the building, they own the building, they decide what the rents are for the building, and so on. And they're still fleshing it out, but I think that's such a great idea
I
as
agree.
well. Because we see what happened in Little Haiti with the Little Haiti project, and all those small businesses got ran out of Little Haiti that
Yeah,
had been there since I was a
absolutely.
kid, since the '70s,
Absolutely.
and got ran out of there because they couldn't afford the rents anymore. But something like that is also something I would love to see as well. I wanted to know how you felt about something
Oh,
like
I
that.
think that's an excellent idea. And I'll go back to the ecosystem when we were looking at the whole startup model.
Mhm.
That word model, it's a challenge for me. I'll own. But when we looked at the startup model, the theory was it's much better for you to let people rent because businesses are cyclical. They may not
Mhm.
even want to do it in 10 days. But to me, I don't know how you build real wealth as a business owner
Mhm.
without encouraging assets.
Mhm.
And one of your assets is the building you're in.
Sure.
It not only now helps you in terms of the value of your business, but it also helps you with regards to that. Now you can't come in and run me out of anywhere
Mhm.
because this is
I own
mine.
I own it. I own
Right.
it with several other partners. If it's a small strip mall, we're responsible for it though. We're
Exactly.
responsible for the AC. We're responsible for the parking lot.
Exactly.
We're responsible for the building maintenance.
But it's
But
mine.
it belongs to
Right.
those businesses, those 4 or 5 businesses that may have that storefront or that
Right.
small strip mall. But it's theirs. They share in it
Exactly.
equally.
Exactly.
They run it. They actually control what's going on. So I think that's, as Catalyst Miami works on fleshing out that program. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that from them.
So,
And they're actually working with one of the cities, the city of North Miami, on this particular project. So getting that's one
I
thing
agree.
that where government is getting involved, and
Exactly.
it's getting involved, but
Exactly.
they're helping the small businesses in their community stay in that community and actually own in that community.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
they reap the
They're
benefits of the
gonna plan if
taxes.
they've got their own
Mhm.
building.
Exactly.
And if they leave, this is a great asset. Now this is the value of
Sure.
of for the property when you're selling it. But now who's coming in is now anchored in the
Exactly.
community as well.
But if I'm a small business and I'm a part of an ownership group that owns the area, I'm gonna take pride in that, just like we take pride in our
Absolutely.
homes,
Absolutely.
same way. And I think
Absolutely.
that's Catalyst Miami's way of looking at it.
I think that's a great
So
idea.
I think that it's a great idea. I'm looking forward to them fleshing it out even more. Like I said, they're working with city government, city of North Miami, to try to bring this to fruition. So that'll be the petri dish,
Right.
and
Right.
we
I think that's
can
an excellent idea.
and just think about adding your project to something like that,
Mhm.
where you're talking about, okay, you have the legal resource,
Mhm.
you have the accountant resource, you have the social media
Right.
resource, that that you get that time, and they're actually posting your socials for you, and
Absolutely.
and the
And now
lawyer is
you can
going over the
really
contracts. Hmm.
look at those opportunities that are now going to be about wealth building
Exactly.
for your business.
Exactly.
And the more money we make, the more we hire.
Exactly.
Well, who do you think we're going to hire? The people in the
Locally.
neighborhood.
Locally.
I'm not shipping anybody in from around the world.
Hmm.
I'm going to find the skill set right
Exactly.
around me. I need you close by.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that's where who are also people that are going to be investing back in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
So that's
And then making that dollar circle the neighborhood instead of
Absolutely.
leaving the neighborhood. That dollar's actually
Absolutely.
circling within the neighborhood, and that's what we desire. We desire for money to flow. If you know how a dollar rolls, you want the dollar to stay in your neighborhood,
Correct.
or at least the majority study of it. Every study I've read, 75%, you want 75% of your dollar to stay in your neighborhood, because that attracts business to your neighborhood. It attracts housing to your neighborhood. It attracts people to want to live in your neighborhood.
Exactly.
I mean, we have. Yeah, and we have several prime examples here in South Florida of that happening. Because if you remember back in the day, downtown used to be a ghost town after 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Remember?
Absolutely. I used to work there. I do remember.
It used to be a ghost town, but look at it now.
You're right.
The small businesses are kind of coming back to life, which is bringing development, and it's reciprocal.
And people are there now.
Yeah.
Because they've moved back into the area and some of those.
But it goes in that circle because the more the buildings came, more businesses come.
Absolutely.
There was a time there was no way that you would find a grocery store downtown Miami. Nope, it just wasn't there. You had to leave the neighborhood. If you lived downtown, one of the few people that lived in downtown Miami, you had to leave the neighborhood to go to the grocery store. But now it's so walkable that you can walk to the grocery store and walk back to your apartment.
And I think people really like that, honestly.
Sure, of course they do. I think everyone does.
Everyone does. I live in Overtown, and so now we have a grocery store across the street. And as I wake up every day, that's where my business is based. That's where my home is based. That's where everything I like around me is based. I mean, quite frankly, it's getting to a point where I shouldn't have to leave if I don't want to. I do, but I just shouldn't have to.
Well, I don't want you to just stay, just be concentrated in your neighborhood all the time. There's other things. We have a lot to do in South Florida. So, or in Florida in general, I want you to, drive a little bit as well. So, let's talk about money. Let's talk about loans to small businesses, and how do you see organizations, especially community development financial institutions and government, I'll go back to it again, and government can help as far as loans and actual investment is concerned?
Well, I will start by saying it depends on the entity. It depends on the business. I'm not that person that says just throw money at anyone and everyone. Let's start with that. I really feel like it could be a private-public partnership where we look at both loans and investment to invest in businesses. I also feel like that's where I think training could be very powerful, because we're looking at both investment and it should be extensive. Like most businesses, really, you can't really assess if they're going to be sustained for 5 years. So if you're going to make the investment for that period of time, be that loan and investment. But with that comes a real one-on-one training to help support how you're investing your dollar.
Totally agree.
I mean, it would be wonderful if I had a coach I could call to say, I got this money. What's the best use of it that's going to help me get to a point where in 5 years I won't need you anymore.
Perfect. I love what you're saying, because one of the things when I worked in that nonprofit side of providing small business training, technical assistance, and loans, is I would tell the clients, okay, look, this is not money for you to go to Disney World and spend the week with, right? This is money for your business, and you can kind of feel in the room. Okay, you've taught me some things, but do I really know how to spend this money correctly? You just gave me a $15,000 loan, but you can see they're happy they got the loan. Don't get me wrong.
But I'm terrified.
But they're terrified at the same time. Okay, how do I spend this right? How much really should I spend on advertising? How much really should I spend on inventory? How much should I should I get a larger space? Should I not? Do I need more equipment? Should I not? And the proper equipment to invest in, because you can't, they probably do need equipment, but the proper equipment to invest in.
Exactly.
Do I need something that, even though my sales I'm selling 200 units, do I need I'm selling 200 units a week? Do I need something that makes 1,000 units, or should I get something that makes 500 units?
Or even I have a friend right now who's going through the whole pre-packaging thing.
Mm.
Do I take that off my plate, which means I don't need that machinery anymore, and give that to someone else? Is it more cost effective for me to invest in that way than to try to manage that myself?
But that's where, like you said, that's where that coach comes in.
Correct.
To help you correctly make decisions about how to spend that money. Like I said, I would see the terror, I see the terror in their eyes. They go, oh, I'm so happy I got a loan. But
what am I gonna do with this money?
Please, I can't mess this up. I can't mess this up. I can't mess this up.
Because I got to pay this loan back.
It's not free.
I'm making enough money to pay this loan back. It's a very scary thing.
Yeah.
So if we could create an environment where, it's part investment. I'm also, you got to put your skin in the game. So part loan, okay. Hopefully low interest loan. But how do we set us up that within 3 to 5 years, preferably 5, I now have everything I need. I can pay back that loan. I'm making regular revenue. I have the clientele to keep at least the doors open, and I can just grow from here. The quality of my business just grows if I can meet my monthly
Exactly. It's always great having these discussions with you, Stephanie. I really, really appreciate you being a part of our podcast. So I have one final question, and this is what I ask everyone. So my final question is this. If I gave you the power and you had the power to make changes and make it a perfect world for small businesses, give me one item you would change and why.
For all small businesses?
Yeah.
I would say probably in this community, the ecosystem. Again, not bashing the ecosystem. I think it's great. But just really, instead of us focusing only on models, really looking at the ecosystem and the needs and listening to the small business owners about what they need and really creating a strategic environment that helps businesses thrive in the way they want to thrive. Some businesses will never be Macy's. They don't even want to be.
Yeah.
So let's create an ecosystem around that. Just making sure you can meet your needs. Some people will be mid-level. Some people do aspire to be Macy's. Do you have what it takes to be Macy's? And ergo, more can we support you in that way and help you on that trajectory? And maybe not get just totally bogged down on what's sexy for right now, because I know tech, we put a lot of money in the tech space.
Sure.
But there's a possibility for a restaurateur to become some major chain. There's a possibility for a hair salon to become a major chain. I mean, during the pandemic, one of the things that survived and did very well was the beauty industry. So why not really invest in that?
Well, we were on camera way too much.
Right, exactly. And I interviewed somebody doing makeup yesterday, and I was like, what do you think? She was like, everybody wants a good lipstick. Everybody, even men want to look nice and shaven and nice. I was like, exactly. So yes, I would love to kind of rethink how we support small businesses in this.
That's a great answer, Stephanie. And again, we thank Stephanie van Vark.
Thank you for inviting me.
For coming in and doing our podcast. So, Stephanie, before we go, could you give us your business name as well as contact information?
We got a lot going on. Again, my name is Stephanie van Vark. Our company name is StephanieCreates.com. You can find us on our website. And from there, linked into almost everything else we do. We are also the creator of GoingOvertown.org, which is a website community outreach platform for Historic Overtown. And we also have launched our podcast, Just Talking Business, our podcast, Jigsaw Parenting. What else do we do? So yes, but you can definitely find us at StephanieCreates.com. And if you'd like to email me, Stephanie@StephanieCreates.com. That's STEPHANIE @StephanieCreates.com.
Thank you, Stephanie. We really appreciate you. And thanks again for tuning in for the Just Economy podcast, sponsored by the Community Reinvestment Alliance of South Florida, building Florida's just economy, $1, 1 vote at a time. And again, we thank Ms. Stephanie van Vark. Tune in next time where we'll have another guest concerning talking about items and issues that help our community. Thank you very much.